Welcome to the Post-War podcast recorded at Karl Marx Studios bunker somewhere hidden in Berlin. I'm Pablo De Negri, your host, and today's guest is a musician, performer, a producer, singer, etc., Joa Luna. Joa, thank you very much for being here.
It was very hard to find this place, this bunker, but I made it. I'm really happy to be safe in here.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation.
Well, yeah, it's a safe bunker space.
Berlin is very safe space. That's why I
Not
moved
all
here.
Berlin, but yeah. We can talk about that later on, about this special aspect of Berlin and how safe it is, really. But it's true that some come here for looking for that, in a way.
Yeah.
But your story, we met a couple of years ago or something ago during the quarantine situation. Through a very interesting tool in the end, was a group chat for artists to make picnics, to meet in the park, because it was safer to meet outside because of regulations.
We
and so.
were allowed to meet in parks there,
Right.
yeah.
And we met through these picnics.
Yes.
We have some friends in common, like Alex, who was also in the podcast.
Yeah.
Amaury Bouquet was also in the podcast, etc. All from this special artist picnic
Really
thing.
nice group. Yes.
And
we're trying to be creative and still meet.
Right.
and do things.
Yeah, right. The pandemic is still going on, but the situation at this time felt really still, we were really deep in it, regulations-wise. And
unfortunately.
And I heard your music. I know your music. I like it very much. You have a very special voice and a very special style that I enjoy a lot, particularly.
Thank you.
But you actually didn't start making music solo until recent years, even though you had 14 years experience, let's say, in production.
Yeah, exactly. I started more just as a singer, and I started in Poland, in my hometown in Gdańsk. In high school, actually, my story started in high school, so it was a while ago. And I played in bands and I performed with bands. Since this story started, I just really wanted to play with people and perform on stage. I really love concerts, so I'm really happy that I get to play again now. And I was moving a bit, and whenever I would move, I would start a new band. And whenever a band was because bands just die sometimes from time to time. So then I was
this is the approach to music in high school mostly. But a lot of let's say very heart-oriented soul projects or life projects starts in the teenagers, they say. And this attitude of still wanting to make groups and starting a project, and so it has a lot to do, maybe, I think, with this time of the high school discovery.
For sure. I really started late in high school, so it was really kind of on the verge. And then I went to study somewhere else, so that band ended. And then the most experience I got quite early in my music career was actually I was singing in a blues band. So hence, and the band was quite well known in Poland. They had their fans, and they were touring
with rock,
a lot.
So to say.
Yeah, blues, rock.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, more jazz blues. It was more like that area, and and then we were touring quite a lot with this band, and that's how I grew very confident on stage. And then I started wanting to explore and experiment more with genres and with what I can do with my voice, because with blues music, it kind of fits in this pretty kind of traditional, let's say, way, which I enjoy a lot. I really enjoy expressing myself in this way. But then I felt the need to kind of break some rules and really experiment more. And then I started just different projects as well.
Was it common for you? Did you listen as a kid blues at your house? Did you have any sort of familiar musical or artistical influences from your family?
So basically, like no one from my family is a musician, so there's no music background there. But my dad used to blast out some records at parties sometimes. It would usually be Stevie Wonder, and I really like.
Okay, but there's this rock kind of background that's familiar too.
For sure. And then I started like researching on my own and discovering artists on my own. And the first like album that I really, the first artist I was really obsessed with was Aretha Franklin. And then back again to high school, I decided to like show my talents. Like that was the time, and there was like a talent show in my high school, and I chose one of the songs from Aretha, Natural Woman, and that's how I got hooked. That's how I got invited to my first band.
I guess everyone said you sing amazing. Or?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I got hired to the band, so like I guess it wasn't bad.
Okay, we get it.
I was very much like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was definitely feeling it. And I think I really like to follow my gut, follow what feels good. And this felt really real and important to me, and I keep following that.
It was the first let's say, a strongly emotional connection you felt with this as an art, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. And this was my first, like, real experience on stage. And there is some magic that happens on stage. It's like a transformation, I have to say. Like, I always feel like I do things that I don't usually do in the comfort of my studio or something. It's just such a different magical space. Yeah.
I asked because we talk a bit off camera, and I knew already that you didn't have from a family any specific artistic. But in a way, in your bio, I think it says you have specifically says stage experience. We had more to do with the performatic side, and this kind of performatic thing or discipline thing with the body, and so you might have gotten from your family because they have a specific background. No?
Definitely. So I grew up in a sports family.
Right.
My mom used to be a dancer. She still dances amazingly, and she used to like teach dancing as well, and I actually used to crash her classes and help her teach as a kid.
Nice.
So like I have really cute memories of like being half the size of my mom, you know, the height, and I would teach the moves to the students,
the
which was pretty funny. Yes, exactly. And my dad used to train athletics and used to be a coach of athletics as well, and then also rugby. So I trained swimming first and dancing, and then moved to athletics. So it was like a lot of my years when I was growing up was really shaped by that. And sports were just like all we did. And I mean, not all we did, but a lot of time we spent on sports. My brother, I have one brother, he also trained athletics.
Didn't you feel pressure to be a competitive athlete or?
No, it wasn't. It came naturally. I just like had a lot of energy, and it was a perfect outlet for this energy. And I even, to prove that, there was this time, because I went to sports school as well, and I had to you had to usually apply to get there, and like there were tests, like physical tests to get there. And I was ill at the time when they were like having these entry-level tests. And my dad was like, oh, it's okay. I know these people. They will let you in. I can like sort it. And I went against my father, and I just like went to do it anyway because I wanted to prove that.
How old were you?
It was like, I don't remember. I think it was like I was around 10 years old or something like that. It was quite small. But yeah, so it was just something I wanted to do, and I kind of wanted to show that I deserve the spot, and it's not like someone's giving it to me.
Right. So discovering music was more through friends, I guess, in high school and so.
Yeah, and it felt a bit like soul searching as well. It felt like also there was a time of like MySpace, and I discovered a lot of artists.
Hey, I started in MySpace also.
Yes.
In the minimal techno times.
Yeah, nice.
It was before Facebook for the ones
before
that
Facebook. That's it, yeah. So it was really nice, yeah. For me, of course, through friends as well. We also were going to some jam sessions and meeting more musicians. That's how I started. And that's why I still like going to jam sessions, because it just feels so natural to me. It feels familiar, because that's how I got introduced to music as well.
But you didn't have lessons?
Well, I didn't go to music school. I did go to like private lessons to like take care of my voice and to like make sure I'm not injuring myself, because like when you sing, it's like, yeah, you can injure yourself. You can do harm to your voice and to your vocal cords. So it's better to like have some lessons and check if you're doing things right. Because I kind of wanted it to be long-term thing. I didn't want it to be just a hobby I do for a minute and then like... So I did try to take care of my voice as well. So also like my parents kind of wanted to check if I'm actually good, and then they like asked a friend to like kind of audition me and check if I'm actually like okay, if my voice is
the competitive part of a sport family.
Yeah, I think so. They were always like checking me.
The strict aspect
exactly.
of
You have to be checked, like if you're good, if it's not in your head.
Right.
And then in the end, I passed.
You passed it.
I passed. So then, yeah. It's funny. My mom still does it. She like when I like I'm preparing for the release of my album, and my mom was like, "But do you like sing these songs to like someone, and do they like check if they are okay for your voice? If you're doing things right?" And I'm like, "Mom, like I think I'm past that stage. I mean, of course I do have peers, but I don't think I need a teacher to like say, yeah, you're doing things right.
Right.
Like I think I'm old enough."
And but I guess I mean it makes sense if you want to do this in a serious way. I think I come from a generation, an approach to music that didn't play any role to go to check to the doctor first if your vocal, your physical,
you're capable.
If you're capable. You will just break your chords,
Just go with your heart.
But of course, now I think differently. I think if you do want to do something seriously and you want to live while doing it, then
of
you
course.
need to...
it's good to do checkups for sure.
Yeah.
Go do checkups.
Yeah, guys. Do it. And so... When did you feel you decide that music was it then, that since it was so far away from any reference you had growing up and so?
Yeah, so I think that it became real that moment in high school when I managed to like get the courage to get on stage. And then like things just started happening around it, and that I started going to the jam sessions, that I started rehearsing with musicians, and I really dived into this world that was so new, and started writing straight away my own songs and first lyrics. And it just felt like such a pure way of expressing yourself. It was so different also from sports. Like sports is also an expression, of course, especially dancing, I guess.
But with dance, you did have a stage experience. Let's say, did you dance in public? And
yes, I like all of the sports I did were like competitive sports. So I entered like competitions, and I used to take part, in these things. So I was like on stage, definitely, and there was a jury, and like it was very official and important. So and I think also while working on this album and like kind of recently, just like, I mean, I always felt like very connected to my body because I was doing sports, but also I feel like I really felt now the need to really connect my dance experience with my music.
Yeah.
And it kind of, because I don't have this like music background, but in a way, dancing is my music background. This is how I feel the music, like through body. This is how I understand and feel rhythms. And I really love going to like different concerts and to dance to different genres as well, because like it really kind of makes me explore so much more of like the music that I can be making, can be creating, because I don't only sing, I also produce music. So for me, it's a time to really be like free, and you can translate in so many ways what you want to say, and that's really...
I mean, if you think about it, of course, as human beings, given our evolution, and so everything with music had a ritualistic, physical origin, ontologic origin.
Celebration.
So, right. But you know, for some people like me that they don't understand too much, so dance or... only know how to dance to techno, which really easy.
Techno is fun too.
It's still like reaching to this point when your body is feeling it, you know, and you can express that for an external view. It is not so easy.
But techno is definitely ritualistic.
Exactly, for sure.
I think it's like... I think everything can become our ritual. Like, I think we're getting out of this era where everything was connected to a particular religion. So I feel like we feel the need to have some rules, morals, and like... And also, like, we need to celebrate some more important moments, and we need to dwell on some deeper concepts. And I feel like also for me, religion, like, didn't really fit at some point to that concept.
As a system of...
exactly. Too many rules that are not adapting to, like, the life that we're living. Which is also like, if that works for you, that's amazing. Like, it just stopped working for me. I like, it never tried to judge anyone, and I'm really happy if people like find their ways of doing things, believing. Because I remember the moment when I kind of like lost my faith in Christianity, Catholicism. And there was such a big void in that place. And then I was like, okay, what now? So I don't have any rules. I don't have any, like, anything bigger. Like, how does it work? And then through, like, reading and talking with some friends, I just, like, kind of discovered my new spiritual but non-religious ways of like thinking about world and
the search for a meaning.
Exactly, the search for meaning. It never stops though. I feel it always adapts and changes and flows.
Right. And this has to do with finding in particular art life relation?
Yeah, for sure. Like, basically, art becomes your religion in a way. But I also feel I started reading a lot of books about, spirituality without religion, and also mindfulness really like sits right with me. Buddhism as well, but then sometimes I kind of take it lightly, and I try to just like look into these areas, and I try to always take a little bit of knowledge that fits my life. So basically, with religion as well. So it's kind of like, reading books.
Right.
You read a book and you kind of like feel like, oh, that resonates with me. And then I try to keep it. I try to understand it. I try to think about it. And I think some knowledge and some practices work for me for some part of my life. And then at other points in my life, it doesn't work anymore. But it served its purpose, you know. It helped me out, and like then it transforms. I guess
you seem to have found in music a factor that articulates these aspects of researching your personal self and finding your balance, so to say, in a very harmonic way. That's a characteristics of some nowadays some multidisciplinary scenes, movements, and that I find special or contemporary because they incorporate a lot of this. Let's say the ecology of ideas related to health and taking care of self-care, so to say, and the search for meaning at the same time, and this spiritual is something that will replace religion, as you say, but as a practice through art. And I was wondering if you came to Berlin at some point. You left Poland and decided to come to Berlin. I was wondering, did this kind of specific aspect of this relationship to multidisciplinary approach, also with spirituality and meditation, and so it was already in your mind when you decided to come to Berlin, or is something you found that here, so to say?
Yeah, basically, I started getting into psychology when I was studying, and then into mindfulness a bit later. So it happened before Berlin. But it definitely wasn't as active and present in Poland for me as it is in Berlin. Like in Berlin, I definitely like see there's so much more activity in these areas, and it's really beautiful because like it opened my mind in so many in so many ways we can interlink practices and like and it's interlinks with music so much here. It's really beautiful, and definitely connected to this place in Berlin called Mahala. And it's such a beautiful space, and it's very much the connection between the rituals and and music.
You didn't know that you will find this kind of connection
Not
here.
really. I didn't know that about Berlin before. I did a trial a month here actually before deciding to move here over 3 years ago. And I came here for a month because I was always like just coming to visit and like parties, jams, and all that jam. And and I was like, okay, it cannot all be that, you know. Like I have to really have a feeling if it's feasible, it's possible to live here,
live a life also, not only
live a life, not live a party. Yes. So I came here and I really, really felt that that's the energy, that's my energy, just resonates so much, the city. And it was actually more beautiful than I thought. And it gave me so much freedom. And I feel because Berlin is such a city in flux, it always moves, it always changes. So in a way, you kind of always discover something new.
Right.
And definitely, the mindfulness and like so many beautiful communities. I don't think I ever heard this word so many times before than when moving to Berlin.
Yeah.
Communities, but it's so beautiful that it's so important that we see like, okay, like where do I, so it's also not individualistic, like
right.
Who am I? It's also like more collective. Who are we? Which groups can I belong to, associate myself with? Like it's really nice to open it up more. And
your physical, sporty background did also include things in relation to yoga or meditation or something like that, or is it something you discovered later?
Yeah, no, I discovered it later. Yeah, definitely. It wasn't in my background. It was definitely more connected with mindfulness I was reading about. And then, here definitely more.
And why did you decide to not to come to Berlin, but to leave Poland, so to say, because you had built there a name in the scene, and why living, because there's a whole cultural
of
thing,
course.
The challenge, so to say, definitely. When you do that.
Yeah, in a way, I felt I stopped growing in Poland. Because also like the alternative scene that I feel I belong to is very the underground bunker scene.
Yeah,
it's quite small in Poland, and I was a little bit tired of all the fighting and also feeling not understood. I kept hearing that I sing in English and that's a problem. Or like the music I make is too alternative, that I will never make anything of myself if I do such things. And it's like, at some point it's like you want to fight because it's like, but at some point you will understand me. But then at one point I was like, just like tired, like I can be using this energy in a more creative way. And also some friends were suggesting just like, you will really spread your wings when you move to Berlin, when you move abroad, would just have so much more support also, because I feel like I was feeling a little bit lonely in kind of, I'm very dedicated. I'm really like, my mind is set on, I'm making music. I'm certain this is what I want to do in my life. And I really like whatever I didn't have to do in my life, like apart from music, I always knew this is the most important thing. And I didn't really have that many partners in music that had the same energy. And I feel like there's so many more people here that are just like hungry for it. So this even energy like feeds me so much more and like supports me in my quest, know? Like when you feel like there's more people like you with similar quests in life, then you just like feel like, okay, like I can do this because like other people are doing it. So like it's not just in my head.
I can definitely relate to some aspects of that. We talk about that at the very first beginning, this particularity with Berlin, that a lot of people come here, not because here you will be one with everything, or you will still be a migrant, an Ausländer, and so. But sometimes, especially in artistic practices or things that involve reference to international, external, cultural references that doesn't have to do where you come from, that is always like a wall that makes you feel always a bit weirder, that you should be in your own place. And this, at some point, you feel a bit fed up, and you say, okay, I moved to Berlin, at least everyone is a bit weirdo there, so they will not be pushing so much on this thing.
No, totally. And there's so many, like, events and, like, moments in my life here that really opened me up, to be more performative, to just embrace this energy and these ideas that I have. And this is really beautiful, like when people like appreciate you for who you are. And in the end, it's like such a basic thing that we all are seeking, that people accept us and take us for who we want to be.
Right.
Even if that it's just a phase or something, we also have to have the freedom to explore this idea, this phase, and just keep going.
Yeah, for some it's better to go somewhere outside of your comfort, local culture, origin.
For sure.
To always have a bit this distance, definitely, I can relate to that.
For sure. I also kind of wanted to live abroad. I studied English philology, and I always kind of thought, okay, because this language was like with me for so many years, then it just like felt like I felt the need to just speak it more, because in Poland, like I did use it, but in professional sense, but it wasn't like for living in a way. So when I moved here, I finally felt like, okay, I can like use this tool.
Right.
And in a way, that's why I also never really sang in Polish. I do have a few songs written in Polish, but majority of the songs I wrote were in English, because it was more like the language that I studied, the language that I explored, like chose to explore. That it was like such a different, kind of more active. I was more aware of that language than of my own, because when you're a native speaker, you just like take your language for granted. You don't notice these things. And especially like in this like linguistic approach, you really dissect the language and have so many approaches to looking at the language. So
there's also in the Argentinian Buenos Aires avant-garde music movement from the 80s, and so we had a lot of British influence at these times, and Luca Prodan was a British, half Italian guy that went there and revolutionized the scene and brought this new wave and new elements, and they actually started during the dictatorship, when it was forbidden to sing in English. But Luca Prodan would say rock is in English ontologically. There's a conceptual reason why rock should be in English. And there is this linguistic approach. There's this origin relation from the language to. You said you started with blues, and so all this origin from rock, and then all the music we hear in the Western world, at least, had a lot to do with it, and had a lot to do with incorporating English language into this tradition. And talking about the genres and origin of genres, and so you have in your bio the term soulful, avant-garde, chilltronica.
Yeah.
At first I wrote it electronica, and I have to take out elect and put chill on top. Chilltronic. What is this genre definition comes from?
Well, actually, now I updated it a little bit, because I just wrote like my new bio. Actually, I asked a friend first time in my life to like write it for me.
Right. You didn't risk a genre at first, so to say.
I mean, so avant-garde is a nice way of saying experimental.
Everyone from the underground will feel cool, just avant-garde in
exactly. It just feels fancy, okay? Sometimes you just want to feel
everyone
fancy.
into experimental things.
And then I also write ambient because there's a lot of space in my music. I really love the spaciness, also probably because of mindfulness and like meditation practices. And it's just so nice. It's just like candy to my ears. I love it. I love exploring it. And then I also like broken beats. So this is more from the background of my dance again, like that.
Broken beats could come from the British influence through your English.
also for sure. And then chilltronica, electronica.
Yeah.
I think now with this album I go a bit stronger. Like there's this twist and turn in the middle of the album, and it goes into more like powerful beats.
Right.
So I don't know if I can
for
write
what I heard, for what I
chilltronica.
listened to from you, chilled should be changed for like
electronica.
firetronica.
Firetronica. Oh my god.
But there's a lot of elements that makes it so distorted guitar sounds and
true.
achieving like some kind of pathos, like it has to do with experimental rock and so that makes it really powerful actually. Not so even though it's deep.
I think that's it, that I'm really channeling all the like backgrounds that I come from musically. And it's like now I'm just like channeling into my project and with my tools. And it just has everything in it. But it's like, I feel like it's also not too much, because like at the beginning when you want to try to create your things, you kind of want to put everything in there,
right.
you know, and it's really nice to take a step back and like edit and like take unnecessary things.
How many years did it take for you to learn this, that you have to step back a little, so to say?
Yeah. I mean, now I'm in my 30s. I'm okay, you know. I'm more chill than I used to be.
Yeah.
But also like, I've been producing for like over 4 years now. And I mean, my productions.
Your solo project.
Yeah,
you
for
were
my
involved in
solo
music
project.
production for many more years.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my productions are still full actually. Like, but I still try to give it space anyway. So even though there's a lot going on, I try to really level it so it's not overcrowded.
And the soulful part, I think we forgot. We know from the blues.
Yeah, exactly. Blues, soul music. I still go to a lot of like soul jazz jam sessions. I used to organize, like there's a really good session, Cassette Head session in Berlin. There's also Soul Jam, used to be known as Soul Fam. I used to organize the sessions with really
You were also
nice
a promoter
collective.
in Poland.
Yes.
Did you also get in touch with this kind of activity here in Berlin?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you kind of always co-organize, co-promote things. So like you cannot run away from it. I think when I moved, I was like, no, I'm really just a musician, and there's so many more people here who professionalize in all the other aspects of music, so I wanted to like give them their role. But then I realized actually that like my experience is still valid and it's still like useful, so I have this knowledge, so I can use these tools and then always help out, co-organize, co-promote. And it's like when you're your own manager and everything, the whole universe.
When you can be your whole team, that's amazing. If you learn these tools and you can make it happen, actually, we can talk about it, but nowadays artists is like they should have all these tools and be their whole team to make something happen.
It's also overwhelming, but in a way, I think now because I have such a vast experience, like I used to be assistant of a manager of pretty big band in Poland. I used to be a booker for a club. I used to manage all my projects or my bands, and I used to book tours and everything. So I really learned kind of all the jobs that you have in the music industry. And because of that, now it's harder for me also to find someone that's gonna like the way I do things. Because now I'm like, okay, but like I see it this way. I don't know. It has
to happen magically, like in an after hour or something.
I really hope so. So if you want to be my manager and booker, especially booker, please. I kind of, Excellent. I mean,
we'll really... make an open call.
Open call. I really, I mean, I really loved working on this album and, like, doing everything on my own, like, really everything. Because it kind of, like, I got reminded of all the, like, skill set I
The album you're talking about is the album you're going to release now. Yes, okay.
This one,
we will talk about that, of course. You will present this album Berghain. And we will release this episode before that happens. So it still happens in the future. And I had a peek to it. And it's... great stuff, deep stuff,
yes.
And strong stuff.
Dancey.
And before you got to releasing this album, you're going to release now at Kantine, at Berghain. Your connection to the Berliner scene involved also being part of some collectives. There's a Clad collective, that is a female producer collective.
Yes.
It's electronic producer?
Yes, it's electronic music producers. So Eclat Crew is kind of the collective that really helped me out at the beginning, especially when I moved to Berlin. I was really thinking like, what's like I can do? How can I grow? Like, you know, like it's such an amazing, supportive collective. And it's like a bi-weekly meetup, and you meet to produce music together. And you produce music for 2 hours, and then you have to share a 2-minute track, and you have a listening session at the end of it. And it was such a transformative experience for me, because it was like, I learned so much from doing and from like having time constraints and gear constraints. And when you really are just like there also in this like amazing team that also changes all the time. It's very open collective. So you can always ask a question. You have different challenges. So you really like stretch yourself. You have to like really think outside of the box a lot of times. And then we also had mentors that were giving us some challenges. So you also get to know some like local producers as well. And it's all in, it's a female Flinta space. So it's... I also really got strongly connected to these groups.
Here in Berlin there's...
I never heard
one of
like,
the cities where there's more, I think,
so
initiative
loud,
and state-supported, funded initiative that's, at least I know, very good. I researched it for some articles for Argentinian electronic music agenda. Specifically in the electronic music scene, there was this action regarding visibility of female artists in the electronic music scene, in the electronic music festivals, and so there was this index made by a female pressure collective, and I think this had a lot of impact because a lot of electronic music related media made echo from that.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of collectives in Berlin that try to balance, let's say, representation, at least from what I know, in the electronic music scene. Yeah. How did you get in contact with this aspect of Berliner society or
so
culture?
Yeah, definitely through Eclat Crew and Female Pressure. Like these are like the collectives that I got connected to organically. And it really just made me realize how actually, how big the issue is, and also how important it is to create these spaces that promote Flinter.
Safe spaces.
Exactly. To grow, to exchange knowledge, to also like exchange contacts and support each other, and to organize like events that amplify artists. So it's really been great so far, and I'm only really encouraged to do more in these spaces, and I'm really happy to see that it's happening, because the gap is still gigantic. It's just like really, it's still like, I don't know, 5% of like female.
The thing is, I think like many other social structural changes we should make regarding inequalities, non-visibility from minorities, and so it has to do with things that take sometimes generations in a way, because one of these problems from visibility of non-binary producers or main actors in the art, music, electronic scene, let's say in this case, had to do with the lack of reference. And when you don't have, you need people to grow up and to be referenced, and to this reference to equal, let's say, on balance itself, and this takes can take a long time, and luckily in Berlin, in all these initiatives, it seems closer.
Yes, totally. There's still a lot of focus on that, and that's great. And for sure, like I learned what I know from doing, but I was usually surrounded with male musicians and producers. So when I came to Berlin, and I didn't realize how different the cooperation can be, and how I really started working with Flinter producers and other professionals more, and I was like, wow, I actually didn't realize that I've been working just with guys before. Right. It was just crazy because I just took it as a norm. It's usually like male dominated thing, field.
And apart from these collectives you were part of, or founded or co-founded, there's also a sleepover collective that involves other art forms, so to say.
Yeah, so it was like the outcome of Corona, and we had these it was cure for being more asleep. That's why it's a sleepover. And also because we had these creative sleepovers, what we called it, and we were trying to meet and be creative together, and then to have photo shoots, video shoots, illustrate, and
photography,
research
video, installation, music, all blended together. Yes. In the description.
Exactly, it's and there's also results of that on the album that I'm going to release now. Because a lot of the videos were created during that time, and it was just from playtime, with your friends, which is really beautiful, and I really appreciate it. also just being more multidisciplinary. It's also what Berlin brings us, because like it's really strong with it. And I also wanted to collaborate with more like multidisciplinary artists. And I'm super happy I got connected to so many beautiful artists here. And I also went second time this summer to Grabowsee, Countdown Grabowsee. There's an art residency, really beautiful, super amazing artists who like, we created things together for 10 days. You're like in this art residency together, and it's more multidisciplinary. So everyone's kind of like videos, sculptures, and you really try to. I really find it beautiful when you start to think of yourself how creative I am, you know, in so many ways you can express yourself creatively. Because like, even though my main thing is music, I really want to broaden my scope of like understanding creativity, because it also just gives you this different energy and in what you want to make as well. So
and a lot of these collaborative projects start in let's say with the pandemic in a way.
A lot of it. I mean, I also moved to Berlin just before Corona, so in a way, like definitely everything is kind of connected to that period. So it was also kind of the beauty of this time, that you had to keep it smaller, so you kind of restricted yourself and had more focus and time for a smaller group of people. So these relationships changed because you had time and attention for them, and you were not so distracted into connecting to so many people that live in Berlin and are interesting and you know, popping.
We wouldn't have met because of this artist picnic group chat.
Because we would have been busy doing other stuff.
And what do you think changed for good during these times of self-reflection and so? And what do you think this should still change in a way?
Yeah, for me, like, I feel like I hope we learned to appreciate health more and like take it more seriously. That maybe, to listen signals from our body more. So it's like, I'm feeling unwell. Maybe I do try to really take a pause and not go out and stress too much at this moment, and like cancel some plans, reschedule. And so I have more of that in my life, and I hope other people have that too. Then also this like need for slowing down to reconnect to some people on more like private, intimate level. And maybe to look at our relationships differently, basically. How we connect to people, why do we connect with this person better, and how we can improve some relationships. Maybe we also learned more how to just reach out and check in on each other more. I feel like
think we all learned that?
I hope so.
Beyond a personal level, how do you feel like social wise? Are you optimistic about this change?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely an optimist, and I try to foster it as a skill of mine, because I feel like optimism is a skill that we can learn and exercise a little bit.
Interesting. Never heard of it.
It's like a muscle, you know. It's a fitness, fitness, optimism.
Good concept, a new concept. I will research it.
Yes, definitely, because it's like, I don't know, I know that when I'm optimistic, I feel more light in my life, everyday life. And when I feel like I have hope, then it's just easier to do things. And then just my energy is just so much better, and I feel like it resonates and it's infectious, and I give it to other people.
I love it. And so we come to the point where you were connected to Berghain, and this show you're presenting, that is your second or third solo album.
So this album, so I released an EP before, and it was a while ago. It was almost 3 years ago. So it's high time to like release something new. And because of Corona, I managed to slow down and produce a lot of tracks. And I chose some productions to work on and even like close in this like universe called an album. And in the end, I managed to make it a full-length 13-song album, which is called Hold Space, which is also inspired by Corona, and about
Space.
About holding space for yourself, emotionally holding space for other people as well, and to actually draw the attention to the space, you know, to the space that we spend time with, that's like spend time in our space. What's our space, you know, in the physical realm, but also mentally, emotionally. So, and also space is just like a lot of space that I use in my productions.
Right. Space has so much to do with where sound waves, frequencies happen. No? And,
totally.
So we invite everyone that are looking this before the 20th of October
20.
to Kantine Berghain for the premiere of your album. And we will leave also descriptions to all your social networks, everything you want in the description.
Find me.
Exactly. And thank you very much for being here again. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching.
Thank you so much. Hold space.
Hold space. High five.
I'm short. I'm short.
If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to give us a like and a comment under the video. If you want to see more, click here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.